So thanks so much again for joining us today for this webinar, everyone. We are very pleased to have you with us. As we get started, again, we'd like to encourage everyone to introduce themselves in the chat box. You'll find that at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We would love to know your name, organization, and where you're joining us from today. Before we begin, we also want to make sure that everyone knows French interpretation is available for this webinar. If you would like to follow the event in French, you will need to click on the small globe at the bottom of your Zoom screen where it says Interpretation, and then select French. Once you've selected your language, you can choose to mute the original audio, or you can hear it in the background at a lower volume. If you have any technical issues during the session, please send a chat message to Scale, and we will do our best to assist you. Please note that throughout the session, if you have any questions for the panelists today, we would like you to post your questions in the chat box, which you can find at the bottom of the screen as well. I'll now pass things over to Carrie Byrne, our moderator today, who will kick things off for our conversation. Over to you, Carrie.
Thanks, Ashton, and hi everyone, and welcome. As many of you already know, Scale is designed to support the research and capacity strengthening and knowledge sharing for partners of USAID's Bureau of Humanitarian Assistance, so BHA. And Scale works to support impact and sustainability and scalability for agriculture programs, natural resource management, on and off farm livelihoods in both emergency and non-emergency contexts. So this award, the Scale Creative Adaptation Award, was really created to highlight the adaptation work that is being done by local organizations all around the world. We really wanted to hear what local organizations were up to. And so, as you know, we held a video contest in which many of you voted. And we also had a panel of donors who selected the best entry from maybe a technical perspective, in addition to just the joy that came through in the videos. So I hope everyone here already saw the video clips before you came to the webinar, but if you didn't, I will ask Ashton or Suzanne to put the link to our Scale page that has all of those videos in case you want to view them again, or in case you missed them before this webinar. So let's get kicked off with learning who our award winners are. I will introduce the representatives of each of our awards. As you can see on the slide, we have three. And first, I want to introduce the winner of the Donor's Choice Award. Wherever you are, drum roll, please. So Azomchi Foundation has a creative adaptation that is addressing the multifaceted nature of hunger, promoting nutrient-rich crops, but also working with multiple actors in the value chain. And today we have Iwade Faduju, the program manager of Azomchi Foundation, joining us to tell us more about that adaptation. Next, I'd like to introduce our People's Choice Award. So that's the one that you guys all voted for. The Center for Sustainable Agricultural Empowerment in Nigeria developed the Sofadric app to provide farmers with reliable climate information and help them make smart farm level decisions. We have Toyin Olowogbon joining us today to tell us more about that adaptation. And finally, receiving the honorable mention this year is Tailored Foods, which is a social enterprise that partners with food entrepreneurs and farmers and market vendors to ensure that nutritious, low-cost food is available to families. And alongside Taylor Quinn, who is the founder of Tailored Foods, we have Fien Rosette from KV NutriFoods in Cameroon, who is one of the entrepreneurs that he works with. So we've got lots of different angles on these adaptations, and we think an interesting opportunity for Q&A today. So if you do have questions for the panelists that you think of as we're talking, please go ahead and put them straight into the chat. We'd love to hear your questions as well. So I'm going to start with Iowade. So what I loved about Azomchi's video was seeing all the different products that you highlight in that video. I think it's really important for people to kind of get to see lots of different kinds of nutritious foods. But how did you convince processors and bakeries that these more nutritious products were really going to sell? How did you manage that?
All right. Thank you very much. First, I'd like to appreciate Scale for this beautiful opportunity, and also to appreciate the donor panel for choosing us for this year's Donor Choice Award. And for those beautiful comments about our adaptation video, that means a lot to us. We are so much grateful. And straight up to your question, the first thing we do is to get them to understand why we do what we do. Because as a foundation, we are working to ensure that the people that are vulnerable to poor nutrition are provided with the much needed micronutrients to support their health and immune system. And then we also get these people to understand the picture of malnutrition in Nigeria. According to UNICEF, Nigeria has the second number of malnourished children globally. And so we try to communicate this vision to them. We try to make them see this picture. And also we open up the idea of nutrient-enriched crops and how that harnessing the tremendous potentials locked up in these crops can make available cheaper sources of vitamin A-rich foods to vulnerable households. And a very important thing that we do is to emphasize on profitability. Let me at this junction say that one of the remarkable success story of Azomchi Foundation is Azomchi Foods. We have an understanding that to scale up the nutritious foods, they must be commercialized. So Azomchi Foods is saddled with the responsibility of commercializing this innovative food product to reach millions of people within Nigeria and even outside Nigeria. So for processors, for bakers, for value chain actors, we bring them into the factory. We allow them to interact with Azomchi Foods. We allow them to see the model, the business model. We allow them to see the product being produced. We allow them to see that we have so much demand, but limited capacity. We allow them to ask questions. It's an interactive session. They get to see our product lines. They get to see the packaging. So they get to interact with us, and that gives them a clear picture of what we do and how they can get into the business and take it into their various localities. And also we assure them that we'll be there to walk them through the journey. We'll be there to give them, contact to farmers, contact to markets. We'll be there to advise them along the road. So these are the steps that we take to ensure that both bakers, processors, value chain actors are convinced and that they can also get into the same line of business that we are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Iowade. It's a really interesting point that you make about the importance of commercializing these things. I think there are other panelists who would really agree with you on that one. Your foundation is a not-for-profit, an NGO, and so it's interesting. How do you see you talked about that interactive working, but how do you see that role? Since so many people have a preconceived notion that nutrition products are cheap or free or given away as part of humanitarian aid, how did you combat, I don't know, maybe the fears or the misinformation? What did you do?
All right, let me say that as a foundation, we are working to ensure accessibility and availability, and very importantly, affordability. And for us, that is very important, that people are able to afford this nutritious food product. Let me just quickly walk us through some of the products that we have as as an organization. Now, this is orange flesh sweet potato bread. And this bread comes in different sizes and also different prices. And it will interest you to know that the price varies from 45 naira to 130 naira to 250 naira to 350 naira, even to 550. And when you compare that to dollar, that is way less than $1. And then also looking at the bread that we produce and the conventional bread, the difference is clear because there is this margin. For example, the bread we sell for 130 sells for 150 for conventional bread. The bread we sell for 250 goes for 300 naira with the normal, wheat bread. The bread we sell for 550 goes for as high as 700 naira for the conventional bread. So the acceptability is there, and that these products are very cheap. And also remember that the current Russia and Ukraine war is actually taking its toll on the business. That's for people operating along that line. And so we are, advocating for the inclusion of OSFSP puree into the process. And so that gives us an advantage over the people. This is also orange flesh sweet potato juice, 100% natural. This goes for just 300 naira. That is way less than $1. Very affordable, grossly affordable. This is peanuts. This is OFSP chin chin. And this is also OFSP pap. This is a product from food to food fortification, also to increase the nutrient density, in this food. So these products are grossly affordable. Let me also say that we have numerous home-based technologies. We have locally designed recipes that we wish to scale. But the truth is that we are grossly handicapped with resources and funding. We need support so that this product can get to people far from civilization. This product can get to those people, at the bottom of the pyramid. So this is what we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayode. That's really, really interesting. It raises a bunch more questions that I'm going to have for you. But I want to just briefly move on to our, I want to move on to Tailored Foods, because they have, in some ways, a similar model, slightly different, but a lot in common as well. So thank you, Ayode. I wanted to now highlight Fia and Rosette, who is from KV Foods, and you can see her a slide up there that tells you a little bit more about the NutriFoods that they're working on, and Tailored Foods worked with KV Foods on a model maybe similar to what we've just heard from Ayode. Fien, my question is for you, actually. As an entrepreneur, you're representing the private sector today. So tell me, what was the most valuable support that you received from Tailored Foods, who had a more umbrella approach? What, as an entrepreneur, what was that valuable support that you received?
Hello.
Fien, I think we're having a little bit of trouble with your sound. Maybe I'll let you jump in if the sound comes back in, or Suzanne, maybe you can try and support Fien. Taylor, a lot of the questions and ideas that were coming up in the first in what we heard from Ayode is somewhat similar to what you do in Tailored Foods, but maybe you want to tell us a little bit more about the Tailored Foods approach.
Sure, yeah, and Fien, feel free to jump in if your audio works okay at any point here. So, similar to the example that was just shared, our goal at Tailored Food, and I come at this work as a food anthropologist academically, and our goal is to design food products that are completely in line with how people are already consuming, and aligned with food culture, aligned with food histories, aligned with family recipes that a family might have been cooking for 20, 30, 50 years. And how do we make those traditional foods super nutritious, affordable, and taste really good? And I find, often nutrition interventions kind of deprioritize taste and food function and cooking times and all those factors that are really important in how a society or how a family cooks. So what we do at Tailored Food is we partner with incredible entrepreneurs like Fien in Cameroon and Kawada Farms in Liberia, Mozambique School Lunch Initiative in Mozambique, and we partner with those entrepreneurs to design and take to market super nutritious food products that are completely in line with how people are already cooking. And so we bring together a network of Michelin star chefs, food safety experts, food scientists, product development experts on the technical side, and kind of unleash those resources with smaller scale entrepreneurs in the countries we work in, trying to bring kind of world-class food industry expertise directly to entrepreneurs.
Wow, that's quite a network of people. Where would you say the most kind of value in leveraging those outside resources has come from the perspective of the entrepreneur, right? They're local business, so they're experts in being a local business. Mm-hmm. Where does that added value come from that Tailored Food provides from its network?
I think, the types of entrepreneurs we work with are super excellent at running kind of community level or sometimes regional businesses, and are doing a really good job of that. But I think kind of to the whole point of the Scale project, really our focus is how do you take a business model that's working really well, maybe at a community or regional level, and really scale that in a significant way. So one example would be that our work in Liberia, we were recently the recipient of the McGovern-Dole LRP subcontract. So now in Liberia, we've gone from producing fermented porridge in one room in a half-built hotel to now working at the scale of doing dozens of metric tons of product every month, both for Save the Children and for other customers. So leveraging that food industry expertise really helps an entrepreneur scale nutritious food while keeping the values of high quality product, locally sourced ingredients, while keeping those things true.
I imagine that it's a real balancing act. I know anybody who's done a USAID program that was trying to go big on scale can share the pain of what that feels like. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Taylor. And we'll still be hoping that Fien is able to pop back in, and we'll try to grab her as soon as her connection allows us to. But I want to pivot to our People's Choice Award, which is really kind of, so Fadric is an app that's really working at the other end. It's at the production, not processing, but production, farmer production end of things. And I apologize, I've totally lost my place. Toyin, there you go. Toyin, welcome. I think this app is really important because farmers are facing, and Ayode mentioned this as well, the challenges related to climate change, related to increased fuel prices, fertilizers, I'm sure a big deal for your farmers. And a lot of these some of these are climate change, some of these are the Ukraine war, some of them have been on the books for a long time, and it's just structural stuff in country. How do you think your app is going to help farmers make different kinds of investments or smarter investments?
Thank you very much, Carrie. I also want to use this opportunity to thank the Scale team for this platform. I also want to appreciate the audience, which are the people, for voting for us on this project. Straight to your question, you will agree with me that climate change is indeed a risk multiplier for hunger and poverty globally.
Absolutely.
And the case of Nigeria is not an exemption. Before the development of Sofadric app, investment choices in agriculture, especially when it comes to climate-related issues, is based on historical experiences and what we call farm peer influence. And findings and documentation has shown that this has not yielded the expected results because it is not scientifically driven, it's not data driven. And most farmers have had to part with their resources that are along the what we call the climate change induced crop failures. And climate change, before Sofaric as well, most information available are very technical and they are not targeted at farmers making use of the information to actually do what we call farm level planning. In most situations, you just have information about 7 days climate forecast, which cannot help a farmer to do what we call farm level planning on an annual basis. So Fadric has helped farmers in making the right choices in terms of investment in agriculture. You will agree with me that agriculture is a time-based occupation or profession, as the case may be. When you are supposed to plant, if you fail to plant, you are likely to be exposed to some issues that you are not in control of, which includes things like the erratic rainfall. And at the extreme ends, you are also exposed to flooding of your farm. And at the same time, you discover you've lost what you have actually invested in. And with Sofadric presenting a non-technical information that is personalized to farmers' farm to help a farmer determine when it's right for him to plant, the type of crop to plant. And that also helps a farmer to make available the primary input that is needed on time because it's a crop calendar that is meant for an annual production. So when you know when to plant, you know when to source for your fertilizer ahead of when you are going to apply the fertilizer, because the app also has a section that has the best agronomic practices when it's right for you to apply your input so that you could get the best result. You will agree with me that this decision of timing is key, and that is one of the things that Sofadric is doing to help farmers edge what we call climate change shocks or risk, as the case may be. So when you have a data-driven crop calendar that tells you when the rain is going to start, with the incorporation of when you're supposed to plant your crop, when you're supposed to apply the necessary input, it helps farmers to make the best investment choices that is based on data and scientific evidence. Thank you.
Great, great. Thank you. So much information there. And we can see on the screen that you've got quite a number of lessons that you've already learned. I know personally, one of the things I'm interested in hearing about is really how the farmer uptake is, because I've got farmers in my family and I've worked with a lot of farmers over the year. They're very conservative and technology can feel a bit too far away. So are you seeing good uptake of the app? Tell us about that a little bit.
Yes, thank you very much. Just like you rightly pointed out, that we've had some lessons learned in the process of initiating this solution to farmer. I would like to state first to digital package. We have actually been working with this data-driven crop calendar with farmers, physically training farmers for 2 years before we decided to evolve into a digital package that will help us to extend our reach to farmers. And we have modeled the crop calendar on the Nigerian Meteorological Agency seasonal climate predictions that helps us to actually have a contextual information in which our team now goes ahead to downscale to meet the need of the farmers. Now, when we're setting out, we identified 2 categories of farmers. those that are that has high literacy, both digital literacy and the normal educational literacy. And we also identify farmers who has ability to use smartphone and has at least one smartphone in their household, and they also have access to internet. Based on that information that we identified, we developed the web-based Fabric app, which is what most people can see now. And we also identify another set of farmers, which we call them people of average literacy. These farmers have at least a feature phone, that's the ordinary phone that you see everywhere, though they don't have access to internet and they don't have access to smartphone. And on such ground, we develop another targeted solution for them, which we call the interactive SMS platform, which a farmer can text hello, and interactively we've generated some codes that will respond based on his request. And he's also driven through the process of how he's supposed to plant and plan for the season. And
so that's great. You've got kind of two different solutions for where
options
the different farmers are at. That's fantastic. Exactly. I'm going to ask you to hold a few more of those details for us, because I understand that we have Fien back online with us, and I wanted to catch her while the connection is good. So Fien, and thank you, Toyin. Don't worry, we'll be back to you in just a moment. Fien, the question that I had asked just before we lost you was, from an entrepreneur perspective, what did you find the most valuable about working with Taylor Foods, or with, lots of us who want to support folks like you? What's the most valuable for an entrepreneur?
For me, what I want is my product to reach out to those who really need my product. Before I started this project 6 years ago, I was targeting the malnourished community. There's a lot of malnutrition in some communities in my country, because the imported brands, they target urban areas. All the rural areas, they're very malnourished, they have no product of their own, but they have the raw materials. So we use those raw materials, we provide direct markets to them, then we process the food and give them. So we have a unique mixture of a product that can solve malnutrition. So working with Taylor Food really helped us. This is our product, KV Mixed Cereal. It's a unique mixture of 6 different nuts, pulses, and grains. So this product has been packaged in 5 different sizes to be able to meet the economic needs of every household. If you don't have money, you can purchase the one for 1 cent or 2 cents, or $0.50 or $1. We have bigger buckets which can sell to go to families. We have 5 different sizes. So working with Tailored Food really came at the time that people needed it. With Taylor Food being our partner, we have been able to reach to thousands and thousands of families. Like presently, we are producing food to reach out to like 4,000 more families, thanks to Tailored Food. So having many more partners means we are able to cover all the rural communities of my country and even extend to sub-Saharan Africa, because malnutrition is a problem in sub-Saharan Africa, not only Cameroon. So we need partners to process these seeds, nuts we grow locally for them to consume, because we are not importing any of these seeds. The soybeans, there's yellow corn, there's moringa leaves, sesame seeds, granite, and stevia. We all in our country, but unfortunately, they don't know how to compose them to give a unique mixture. This product here is highly nutritive and is very affordable. So we just need partners like Tailored Food to increase our productivity, reach out to many families, and completely wipe away malnutrition and even hunger. Thank you.
Thanks, Fien. And already we've had a question in the Q&A that I wanted to just quickly ask, since we have you here. Is that product micro fortified? So does it have additional fortification?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't have. This product is just.
So it's
it doesn't have our. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you're the important one.
Product has no chemical, no preservative, no artificial, nothing artificial. It's 100% organic, 100% natural. We don't have the finance to add preservative, so we just do it in a way that it can last for 12 months. It's a powder, it's a dry powder that can be consumed by anybody from 6 months upward. Babies consume this product, but even adults consume the product. Even people with not very good health, they consume our product. It can last just like that. It can last like
and I want to build on
Ian
made a comment about what's available locally. Toyin, I wanted to ask, do you think apps like Sofadric have the ability to encourage farmers to maybe plant more of one crop or less of another crop, either because climate change is very real. Maybe you want to encourage them towards more drought resistant, as an example, or because there are marketing opportunities like the one that Fian is talking about. Does your app have that, or are you thinking about it already?
Oh, thank you, Carrie. Let me quickly drop in to answer the question that you have raised. Before we develop the app, we have gone to the field to do some baseline studies. And we discovered for some of the states where we are still working with now, maize is a major crop that is affected by the erratic rainfall patterns. And on that basis, one of the primary crops that we are focusing on now is maize. And based on the evidence that we've gathered on the field before developing the app, we've also discovered that rice follows suit in this chain of activities when it comes to the effect of climate change, and most in particular the erratic rainfall patterns. And we are also looking at cassava coming on board. So we have a list of crops that we have identified based on evidence from the field and based on the severity of the exposure to climate-related risk. And on that basis, as we expand the scope of the app, most of these crops will be featured on the app as well.
Thanks, Torian. Iode and Taylor, I've got a question for you, and what I'm hearing is that, and this was built on a question that came to us in the chat, is that both productivity increases and marketing, really in particular, people have been talking about marketing, are areas where organizations like yours can make a difference. Is that consistent with what you guys found, or would you say sometimes we don't even see the support that we need? So did you see other things in addition that were important when working with processors and getting these products out there? Go ahead, whoever has a good answer.
Sure.
There, either
I can
Iode or Taylor or anyone else.
Yeah, I can jump in first. And there's just a question, Carrie, that came into the chat around affordability as well that I think is relevant to this. So yes, a huge piece of our work is honestly to try not to take ourselves too seriously on the nutrition front. Yes, families care deeply about health and the health of their families, but they also care about being cool, cosmopolitanism, sometimes notions around products being international. So we're marketing fermented porridges and banana leaf wrapped snack bars. We're marketing these products with hip hop stars, with comedians, hosting football matches, painting walls, giving out t-shirts, all the same things that a giant Coca-Cola or Nestle might do. We're trying to create that same sex appeal with our products. Our products just happen to be super nutritious. And to the question that just came in around, that it's understandable that nutritious food should normally be more expensive. So how do you make it affordable? So yes, kind of fundamentally, it's fair to say that nutritious ingredients are going to be more expensive than non-nutritious ingredients. And so our job as entrepreneurs and as supporters of entrepreneurs is finding opportunities in our whole production system to reduce cost in other ways so that nutritious products, they have to be the same price as the non-nutritious alternative. If they are not the same price, from our experience, we will not succeed in building a business selling to the lowest income consumers. So how do you find innovations in your whole production system to reduce costs? And luckily, you know, we've had the Gates Foundation conduct research studies to, you know, assess the affordability of our products and are they truly reaching the poorest of the poor families? And in fact, they are. But because of reductions in cost in areas like the cost of power for production. So generally, we run facilities that are often kind of minimally using power from the grid and factors like that.
Great. Thanks, Taylor. Ayode, do you have anything? Ayode, do you have anything that you want to add to that? I know you started talking about affordability early on, but we've covered a lot of ground since then.
All right. Let me say that as a foundation, we do training on good agronomic practices, and that is across all the nutrient-enriched crops: pro-vitamin A cassava, pro-vitamin A maize, and orange flesh sweet potato. When farmers farm according to that practice, then they can keep at minimum the cost of production. Also, we have a working relationship with the International Potato Center, Harvest Plus, and also the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. In fact, through that partnership, we are able to access all their farmers across the country, more than 20 states in 36 states in Nigeria. Wow. And as I speak, we carry out value addition training for all these farmers. So in terms of awareness, we have what it takes. In terms of demand-driven activities, we have what it takes. And then also with in one of the occasions, we were privileged to facilitate a training for the USAID Feed the Future agricultural extension and advisory services. We did that for the health and extension workers, where they are taught about food to food fortification and also on the nutrient-enriched crop. For instance, what I have here is orange flesh sweet potato pap, and this combines both orange flesh sweet potato, pro-vitamin A maize, and also nuts. So this is just one out of many, product that we get to teach farmers, and then the information spreads faster, and then we try to keep the price as minimum and competitive as possible.
Great, thank you. I want to bring women into the conversation here. And so we've been talking about marketing. We've been talking about the productivity and different kinds of productivity training. We started out early on talking about, kind of traditional recipes and using the crops that are available in country as we're producing things. And I want to hear more about how women's perspectives have come into the decisions that you were making. Women are often the holders of those recipes, but they're not always the decision makers when it comes to planting or sometimes purchasing, sometimes not. That can be a real cultural thing. So tell me, I'm gonna go around. Fionn, I'll start with you. Tell me how women played a role in kind of the products that you end up with, or the process that you used to get to your products. Fionn, go ahead.
In my case, I think women have really played a greater role in my project, because first they had to really encourage me to use the nuts I am using, since women are the head of the families when it comes to nutrition. So I think when I was making the decision, even with medical doctors, to use these seeds and nuts, women were at the forefront to really agree. When we did the pilot stage, I think a lot of women were the ones standing in front to encourage us that we have to use this seed, we have to use this nut, because they are the ones doing the farming, so it's available. They are the ones preparing these meals. So even in a traditional way, when they prepare this seed or this nut or this grain, it is more helpful to their babies than this one. So I think women played a lot of role in decision making to bring up this product. And even in the distribution, they are the ones that really always have the upper hand to decide for their families to purchase a particular product. And when they love a product or they really see that it's familiar, the raw materials are familiar to what they know, they'll go ahead to really accept or adopt it in the community. My product has sold in many communities because women have stood in front to adopt it. Women have stood in front, like the upper hand, to really recommend it to every other person in the community. Even in health centers, women are the upper hand. So it has really been a women thing.
Great.
So I don't think we could.
Thank you, Fian. Taylor, do you want to add another country's perspective to that?
Sure. Yeah. Just briefly, our core thesis at Tailored Food is to work with entrepreneurs who are deeply committed to nutrition, who are deeply rooted in their communities, and without kind of intentionally seeking out only working with women. Everyone except one of our partners is a woman-run business and a woman majority-owned business. So we've just found that when it comes to nutritious food and building thoughtful food system businesses, working with women business leaders is the better approach.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear. Ayode, you started me off on this line of thinking with your point about local recipes. How are women engaged in the work that you're doing?
All right. For us as an organization, we are concerned about gender mainstreaming, and that is a very important thing that we do. When we look at those that we engage on good agronomy practices, we have more of the men. Now, but when it comes to the value addition training, because when it comes to nutrition at home, women have a way of just putting things together. We focus more on the women. That is the balance. So as we take them on good agronomy practices for the men, the women are in charge of the value addition training. We tell them on how they can actually make these local recipes very simple, easy to understand, and scalable. We do that. And when it comes to marketing, more than 90% of the marketing is done by women. The distributors are more of women. For our side, the retailers are more of women. So we try to have that balanced approach. We are very gender sensitive organization. So we don't just want to limit ourselves to men. We carry them along to ensure that, because malnutrition does not have regard for sex, as the case may be. So we just have an holistic approach, taking into consideration both men and women in our approach. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ayode. Toyin, first, let me say thank you for answering directly some of the questions in the chat, and let me encourage others to go ahead and do that too. There's a lot of questions coming in. There's obviously a lot of interest. But Toyin, when I asked this question, I knew that when I got to you, I wanted to ask, do you find men use the app more or women use the app more? How does the gender balance look in your testing in your world of this app?
Thank you very much, Carrie. Earlier on, I was trying to expatiate on the lessons learned, and I will quickly go back to that so that I can also cover this question that you have raised. I was talking about the category of farmers that we identified at the initial phase of the app, and that was why we developed targeted solutions. The first one was for those who are digitally literate and that have smartphone and have access to the internet. The second category of farmers are those with feature phones, those who doesn't have access to internet and have great literacy. There's a third category, which is one of the adaptation we are looking on in the next phase of our app, which are farmers who does not have a basic literacy, who does not have smartphone, who does not have internet access, but has a feature phone. We discovered these are the people at the lowest part of the pyramid. And we have also discovered that most of these people, based on the data we have gathered, are women. And evolving and trying to address this gap, one of the things we have identified we are going to do in the nearest future is to have an interactive voice SMS so that these same people can access this information and they can also pick a language of their choice. For the SMS app, we also have a local language option embedded in it that you can have the information translated in the local language that such a person is used to. So we have discovered so far, while we are still looking forward, because one of the lessons we have learned is a need for us to carry evidence-based analysis for some of these things that we have done to validate the proof so that we can influence policymakers and support systems. In the nearest future, we are still putting our heads together. We are interested in developing a randomized controlled trial experiment with users of this app to validate some of these concepts, especially the impact on some of the outcome variables like crop-induced, climate change-induced failure and some other things. And I strongly believe that will also help us to do more of an overview of the gender analysis of the uptake of this app. We strongly believe that there's a need for us to also encourage women to uptake. At the moment, we have higher percentage of men uptaking at a ratio of about 80 to 20. And we strongly believe if we integrate the other adaptation, which is the voice interactive platform for that last category, which I said are mostly women, people with just an ordinary phone. They don't have access to internet. They have poor digital literacy. We were able to cover this gap and help users to get the best benefit of using the app. On somebody that's raised the question on the issue of climate risks, I've answered that on the general platform.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Toyin. And I just want to say, I really love this idea of a data-driven crop calendar. You know, throughout my career, I've seen crop calendars as a static thing that is in the document, right? You go and you look up what FAO says about the crop calendar for that country and that crop. And I realized, just as you were describing your app, that doesn't make sense in the framing of climate change. It just doesn't make sense to think of a crop calendar as a static thing. We need to just kind of acknowledge and recognize and change our behavior, saying, because of rainfall, like now is planting time, but it also means we've really got to get our supply issues sorted out if farmers are going to have what they need to start planting when they need to start planting. And that's not, you know, and then that has a knock-on effect for the rest of you, right? Because you're looking at supply chains as well. So these, you know, getting more dynamic with our systems and really understanding how systems link up, I think it's such an important issue, and it's important that there are local solutions for these things, because yay, we can sit in Washington or London or wherever and try to solve these problems, but really when they come from you, they're so much more powerful. And so that's going to lead me to my next question. We probably got just 2 or 3 more questions. So if you haven't put one in the chat, get it in there. Make sure that our panelists have a moment to answer, because we won't be able to get to all of them in the chat. But this award was really about adaptation, right? It's about, what are you doing differently? So I'd love to go around and hear from each of you, just in 1 or 2 sentences, what the hardest thing was about trying something new or adapting. And did you try something and it worked, or did you try something and it didn't work, so you had to try something else? I just want to hear a 2-3 sentence version of your story around adaptation. So I will let you, you know, sort of raise your real hand and say, like, I'm ready to speak. Okay, Fien, let's start with you again, and we'll go to Toyin, because I know that's the kind of question that puts some of you on the spot. I could see. Fien, go ahead.
Okay. So in my case, I tried something and it worked. I studied in England after my university education. I came back to Cameroon because I wanted to impact my community. I tried this product 6 years ago. I went for the pilot stage. And everybody gave me a call. They needed this product for their children. And 6 years down the line, the same product we are distributing, and every day we increase the number. Every day the demand increases. So I tried something, it worked. It was very difficult along the way, but it's working so well, and many people need the product. Thank you.
What was the one most difficult thing in getting in on that 6-year journey?
The one difficult I have had is funding to scale this product, because many people did not believe in me from the beginning to support me financially, but later on they did, and they supported me when I had to win many innovative competitions as well. So I could start scaling.
Financing.
But from the beginning,
financing is always a tough one. Yeah, great.
So,
Thanks, Fian. Toyin, what was your adaptation?
Yes, thank you very much. I was trying to point out the lessons learned earlier on, with a particular focus on the SMS interactive platform. Because we are a non-profit organization, we have the assumption that even when we offer solutions to farmers free of charge without any related cost, that will help them to uptake the solution faster and even better. And in addressing that, most of our solutions, we co-designed it with farmers. I was surprised when doing the second stage pilot for this same app. Some of the information gathered from the feed, farmers were sincere to tell us that the cost of using the interactive SMS for them is challenging. And for Nigerian currency, it's just 4 Naira per SMS. For the web-based app, the moment you log in, you access the information. But for the interactive SMS platform, you send the message, immediately 4 Naira is deducted to the service provider, not to us.
We're losing you a little bit, Toyin, but what I heard is it was adapting between the SMS platform and the web platform. Yeah. Iode, I see you've got your mic open. Do you have a adaptation lesson to share with us?
Yes, absolutely. We now speaking for Ezomchi Foods as a model for other, Can I go on?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So initially we had the problem with supply chains.
I didn't get that. Please carry.
Toyin, just hold for me. Iode, go ahead.
All right. So initially we had a problem with supply chains, that we had this inconsistency on supply of raw materials for Ezomchi Foods. But one of the opportunities that the COVID-19 thing brought to us is, it opens us up to strategic partnerships. So we have this opportunity of partnering with International Potato Center. Also, we had this privilege of being, partnering with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, and that strategic partnership opens us up to farmers in 20 states out of the 36 states of the whole, country. So it was an opportunity for us to be able to find a way around the supply chain, and that became, the means of having a sustainability around the production. Let me also quickly talk about, the sales. I see a question popping up around sales now. For the bread per day.
Super quick though.
Yes. For the bread, we're selling 10,000. That's per day for the bread now. 10,000 per day. That's what, that's what is being sold. And for the orange fleshed potato juice, we're talking about 5,000 liters per day. And that is excluding the order that comes from events. So practically, we are just meeting up 30% of the demand. We are just meeting, that is just what we're doing. And again, like I said, we have many homegrown technologies, locally designed recipes that we just want to scale. But with support, we can do that. Thank you.
Great. I'm going to go to Taylor and then I'm going to wrap up because we're getting close to time here. Go ahead, Taylor.
Sure. Yeah. I think the nature for us of like, working in Liberia during the Ebola crisis, right now I'm building a business in Somalia, southern Madagascar during the famine period last year. Adaptation is kind of the constant norm of, okay, we need a wide network of suppliers. We need, kind of fail mechanisms in every aspect of the business because adaptation is so expected. And so that's kind of just been the constant for us of ensuring we're looking at kind of options A, B, and C and able to quickly and easily shift the business model as dynamics in the economy change.
It's true. It's true. Adaptation these days. If there's anything that, sort of like locusts and COVID and climate change and conflict have taught us, it's that adaptation has to be built in. It really is the name of the game, unfortunately, these days. We only have 3 minutes left, and I know that our audience has loads more questions because they keep coming in. So what I'm actually going to do is something a little bit different than I normally do. I'm going to ask our panelists. I think there are lots of people who would like to contact you. You have cool ideas and are innovative people out there adapting and solving problems. If you would provide our audience with an email that you feel comfortable having people reach out to you on, I just think there are lots of questions that our audience would like to direct specifically to you or follow up about the country that you're working in. If you prefer to put a website for your foundation or, whatever you feel comfortable with, I don't really want to put you on the spot, but I really do want people to connect with you in the ways that they are able to, because I know there's lots of different applications for the app, for these food products, for different business support. I can hear that the connections would be really, really valuable for people. So with that, I want to again say congratulations. Really well done. There was a good field of local applicants out there, and anybody who thinks that it has to be done in a big headquarters city needs to go back and look at our all the different local organizations that we heard from for this award. Thank you so much, you guys. This has been a great conversation today. We love hearing from you. Stay in touch because we know you're out there doing great things. And with that, I'm going to, with sort of 30 seconds left, I'm going to say thank you very much. It was wonderful, wonderful having you on our webinar today, everyone.